Hi everybody, it's Tatiana, and today I'm going to come and share with you a couple of suggestions, a few, it's more than a couple, that I have for books to read like when you're stuck in the house. I will start this with saying these are not going to be the type of fluffy books that people have been recommending, and not that those books are a bad thing, but in watching those videos I realized that the books that a lot of people were recommending are not the kind of books that I have been enjoying reading during this time period. So for those of you whose reading taste may be a little bit like mine, sometimes you want lighter books and sometimes you don't. And for me, for this time and place that we're in today, I'm at a don't. So I said, let me share some of the books that I would recommend. Now, if you are looking for the lighter reads of escapism, that's not what you're going to find here. So you may not want to keep watching, or if you're interested, keep on watching. I am a person who reads to escape when things like this are going on. I say things like this is the first time this has happened in my generation. So, but when times are difficult, I choose to read more so for escapism than for learning, and as long as the place is not here, I'm pretty good. So the first book that I am going to recommend is actually two books. It's a series, but particularly two books, and that is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. My two favorite books in this series are The Magician's Nephew, which gets no play from the bookish community. I don't know why. That book is by far, again, my opinion, the best book in the whole series. I don't know what it is about that story that speaks to me so much, but I adore The Magician's Nephew. And then The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, of course, because that gets so much play because that's the first movie that they chose to do. But in The Magician's Nephew, you get where the wardrobe came from, how Narnia came to be, and the characters of Narnia. And it is just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So that is the first on my list. But of course, if you have the series and you haven't read the whole series, you got time. Read the whole series because it's great. The next book that I'm going to recommend is also a chunker, and that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I read this in its entirety last year. I had started this before and hadn't finished it. And yeah, this again, reading for escapism. I love books where the author is describing things and it puts you in the place that you're reading so perfectly. Dumas describes these scenes so perfectly. Buffy, she waits until I record to make noise. And then the intricacy that goes into the plotting for revenge that takes place in this story is tops. There is so much that goes on in the story with how some of these characters are connected and how Dantes figures out and discovers these connections, that there is no way that you can read this and be thinking about something else that's going on. Truly escapism reading. Next, I am going to recommend Chintu by Jennifer Nansabuga Makumbi. This is a story that's set in Africa. That, like, Africa's not a continent. It's set in Kenya. That really follows a familial curse through the generations, and how one person's mistake really sets off generations of bad things that happen to members who are descendants of this line, members of the family that are descendants of the first line that the book starts out with. It's so good. And it takes you, it's like little vignettes of stories about these different members of the family down through the generations, but they're all connected. And just the thought process that goes behind connecting all of these people and these families together, and then how it's resolved So good. And then I have two reads that are very, very heavy, and could probably be a little damaging for some readers, depending on how your mind works. The first is An Unkindness of Ghost by Rivers Solomon. This is a space opera that takes place on a generation ship years and years in the future. It is not a story that has to do with giving a whole bunch of hope for what would happen in the future with Black people or marginalized people as a whole. There is this whole society that's set up around economy as well as race that is very similar to the situations in society that we have set up today, but because it's in the future, there are variables that are different. And yeah, there's a uprising that takes place, and yeah, it's so good. I do have a review of this, and I think do I have a review of Chintu? I'm not 100% sure. It's an older video on my channel, because I want to say I read that in like 2016 or 17. I think. But yeah, I have a review of this. I will try to remember to link those reviews in the description box below if you're interested in checking those out. But I love this book. This is a book actually that I read, as well as Chintu. I read both of them as library books and loved them so much that I bought my own copy. The next is A Parable of the Sower, and okay. Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. If you've been watching me for a while, you knew that this was happening. You knew she was coming. You're not surprised. This would be a little daunting for people because this is eerily spot on with where we are today. Not necessarily with the pandemic, but with the leadership and fuckery that's going on today. And yeah, it's the story of Lauren Olamina, who is probably my favorite character of all time. And yeah, the strength and perseverance that she has in dealing with really, really horrible odds stacked against her, with her own abilities as an empath and the losses that she experiences, and still having the drive and the desire to push forward and to move to what her ultimate dream is for society, or even a little piece of society that she creates, and the people that she brings in, that she meets along the way, that she takes into her journey, sometimes at a possible detriment to herself. Yeah, I absolutely love this. But again, this is very, very scarily spot on with where we are today with the mindset of some people, and this was written in the 80s. And then I'm going to recommend Malice by John Gwynne. This is book 1 in the Faithful and the Fallen quartet. I'm recommending the entire series. I read this, I want to say, over the course of 12 months. I think that's right. And when I got to the last book, I wanted more. This is a grim, dark, epic fantasy. People die. It's a grim, dark, epic fantasy. There are battles. The sword play is so on point. It's so good. There's a little bit of political intrigue. There's travel that goes on with the main characters and character development of the characters throughout the story as they go on. You follow. There's this huge conflict of good and evil, and you have a good person and an evil person, but they don't know which side of the conflict they're on. They don't know if they're the good person or the evil person. The good person might actually or the person who thinks he's good might actually turn out to be evil. The person who thinks he's evil might actually turn out to be good. They don't know where they lie in this conflict, because all they have to go on is legend and prophecy. And so they're going off the words that they're getting from the prophetic person who's supposed to be helping them, but again, they don't know what their intentions are. So yeah, it's so good. It's so It's not convoluted, but there are so many ways that these characters cross paths as they go on this journey to this huge battle that's happening, that's going to happen on the 4th book. And every single last step that they take, you want to follow. And what pushes you along is as you're going through the story, you may not be following you may be following, say, the main character in this book is Corbin. You want to get back to Corbin's story. So while you're getting some of the other characters' perspectives, you're going to keep reading to go through their chapters so you can get back to Corbin's story. And the characters that you want to follow change from book to book. It's so good. Oh my goodness. It's so good. Y'all, it's so good. True escapist reading. You will go like to a time you've never experienced because it's fantasy, and experience things as you're reading this that will completely take you out of wherever you are. And that's, I think, that's what I need right now. So yeah. The last book I'm going to recommend is The Queen of the Night by Alexander Chee. This may be a weird one to recommend. This is set in Paris, France, I think, during World War II. And it follows a character who is an opera singer and her desire to be a diva and to make it in the operatic musical world during that time. And why I say that this is a weird one to recommend is because right now France is basically on lockdown, and you have that feeling. It's very atmospheric when that portion of the story where the bombs are coming and people are in hiding, and during World War II, it's very atmospheric, and you feel the danger that the characters that you're following are in when they decide to venture out to get from point A to point B, or to find someone during this time frame. But also there is kind of a political intrigue situation that's going on, but in the music community of this time. And I really enjoyed that. When I first read this, it did not hit home with me completely, this book, but as I thought about it more, I have a greater appreciation for it. So yeah, if this is something that you have not read, if you're interested in historical fiction and you love music like me, I would highly recommend this. It was really nice hearing some stories about some of the composers during this time frame whose music I may have heard or sung, and the camaraderie between composers, whether it be real or fake. It's nice to see them in this kind of atmosphere and this story. So yeah, that is everything that I have for this video. If you are the type of reader that I am and your brain kind of works like mine, oh, I'm sorry, but you might enjoy these. So yeah, that's all that I have. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good weekend, whenever you see this video. Peace out.